Few topics generate more debate than the question, are aliens actually demons? Over the last several decades, some researchers, theologians, and UFO/UAP investigators have suggested that what ancient people called demons, angels, or spiritual beings might be the same entities that modern people describe as extraterrestrials. Others argue that the Bible clearly identifies these beings as purely spiritual entities without a physical body, and therefore separate and distinct from aliens and potential extraterrestrial life. To understand this debate, we first need to ask a simple question. What does the Bible actually say about fallen angels and demons? To uncover the origins of fallen angels, we must first look at the original rebellion. The biblical story begins before humanity, with the creation of heavenly beings known as angels who serve within God's order. Scripture describes God as the creator of all heavenly powers and hosts. In the book of Nehemiah 9:6, it states, "You alone are the Lord. You made the heavens, the highest heavens with all their host." This establishes that angelic beings are part of the created order, not independent from God. At the center of the biblical narrative is the idea that some of these heavenly beings turned away from their appointed role and rebelled against divine authority. This concept appears in several interconnected passages. One of the most widely discussed is found in Isaiah, which describes a figure who exalts himself in pride and is cast down. "How you have fallen from the heavens, morning star, son of the dawn. You said in your heart, I will scale the heavens, above the stars of God, I will set up my throne." Book of Isaiah 14:12-15. In its immediate context, this is directed against the king of Babylon, but in Christian tradition, it reflects the spiritual archetype of Satan's pride and fall. This theme of a heavenly being seeking self-exaltation appears again in prophetic literature, describing a figure who was once in a position of great honor but became corrupted. In the book of Ezekiel 28:14-17, it states, "I placed you with the cherub, blameless, in your conduct from the day you were created, until evil was found in you." While this passage directly addresses the king of Tyre, it has also been widely read in Christian theology as symbolically describing the fall of a spiritual being due to pride. In the New Testament, Jesus briefly refers to a primordial fall from heaven. He states in the Gospel of Luke 10:18, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from the sky." This statement is short but significant, suggesting a sudden expulsion from a heavenly state of authority or position. The theme is expanded further in apocalyptic imagery describing a cosmic conflict in heaven. In the book of Revelation 12:7-9, it says, "Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels battled against the dragon. The huge dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, who deceived the whole world." This passage explicitly identifies the dragon as Satan and describes him being cast down along with his angels. It continues by saying that his tail swept a third of the stars from the sky and hurled them to the earth, which is commonly understood to represent a third of the angels falling with him. Additional New Testament references reinforce the idea that Satan and his followers constitute a structured group of rebellious spiritual beings. In the Gospel of Matthew 25:41, Jesus states, "Depart from me into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels." This introduces the concept of an organized judgment involving both a leader and associated angelic beings. Taken together, these passages form the biblical foundation for the concept of a heavenly rebellion. God creates the heavenly host. Certain beings become prideful or disobedient. A fall or expulsion from heaven occurs. These beings are later described as Satan and his angels, collectively known as fallen angels. Importantly, the Bible does not present this as a single continuous narrative in one place, but rather as a series of interconnected passages across both the Old and New Testaments. The resulting theological framework is that these beings were not created evil, but became rebellious through choice, leading to their fall and continued opposition to divine authority within the biblical worldview. With the identity of the fallen angels clarified, another question emerges. What are demons? Interestingly, the Bible simply presents them as hostile spiritual beings. Throughout the Gospels, demons possess individuals, torment people, and recognize Jesus' authority. An example can be found in the Gospel of Mark 1:23-24. In their synagogue was a man with an unclean spirit. He cried out, "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us?" Furthermore, when Jesus encounters demonic entities, they often react with fear. One striking example occurs when demons beg Jesus not to send them into the abyss. Gospel of Luke 8:31. This detail suggests that these beings understand that they are already under divine judgment. Demons also came out of many, shouting, "You are the Son of God." But he rebuked them and did not allow them to speak, because they knew that he was the Messiah. Gospel of Luke 4:41. Scripture depicts demons as hostile spiritual beings, capable of possessing and troubling individuals, yet subject to Jesus' authority. This leads to a key question. What actions are demons portrayed as taking against people? And do any reported alien encounters resemble these biblical descriptions? The Bible consistently portrays demons as deceptive spiritual beings. Their activities include deception, temptation, oppression, possession, false teachings, spiritual attacks. If you are enjoying this video, consider subscribing. The Bible and later tradition describe demonic influence as existing on a spectrum, ranging from subtle influence on thought to direct interaction with the physical body and environment. At the lowest level is temptation and deception. This is the idea that influence occurs not through force, but through suggestion, shaping perception, decision-making, and belief. In this view, Satan's primary goal is not immediate harm, but distortion of truth over time, leading a person away from clarity, stability, truth, and God. Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. Second letter of the Corinthians 11:14. This phrase is often used to illustrate the concept of deception appearing as something good, trustworthy, or even enlightening. A step beyond this is what some traditions describe as obsession, where demonic influence becomes more focused and intrusive. This is not physical control, but persistent psychological pressure. Recurring thoughts, fear patterns, confusion, or fixation that appears to intensify over time. It is understood as influence that occupies the mind rather than the body. While the Bible does not use the term obsession directly, it does describe spiritual forces influencing thought and perception. More intense than this is oppression, where demonic influence becomes sustained and external. This may be experienced as prolonged fear, anxiety, emotional heaviness, or physical suffering that seems disproportionate or persistent. In the biblical worldview, this is often associated with ongoing spiritual conflict, rather than a single event. Our struggle is not with flesh and blood, but with the principalities, with the powers, with the world rulers of this present darkness, with the evil spirits. This passage is often interpreted as describing an ongoing pressure exerted by unseen forces rather than isolated incidents. At a more intense level is infestation, which refers to spiritual activity associated with a specific location rather than a person. In the biblical context, this is suggested in accounts where individuals are affected in isolated or abandoned places. For example, the Gospels frequently describe demoniacs dwelling among tombs or in desolate regions, suggesting that certain environments were seen as spiritually disturbed. A man is described as living among the tombs, crying out and unable to be restrained, under the influence of an unclean spirit. Outside of the Bible, reports of infestation extend further in later religious and cultural traditions. These accounts often describe disturbances not only in locations, but in physical objects associated with a place. In some modern belief systems and testimonies, particularly within deliverance ministries and paranormal investigations, claims include activity tied to homes, personal belongings, and even objects such as toys or inherited items. These reports typically describe unexplained noises, movement of objects, or emotional disturbances linked to specific environments or possessions. It is important to note that these accounts are not part of biblical text. but they represent how the concept of infestation has been expanded in later religious interpretation. At the highest level of intensity is possession, where the influence is described as entering and controlling an individual directly. In these accounts, the person may lose voluntary control over speech, actions, or physical behavior, often requiring external intervention in the form of exorcism, for he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. This represents the most direct form of interaction described in the gospel narratives, where the influence is not external pressure or suggestion, but full internal control. Taken together, these categories form a progression from subtle influence on thought to sustained pressure, to environmental disturbance, and finally, to direct control of the individual. Whether interpreted spiritually, psychologically, or symbolically, the biblical and later traditions consistently present demonic influence as something that can escalate in intensity and expression across different layers of human experience. The Apostle Paul warns believers that their struggle is not merely against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces operating behind the scenes. This is important because the biblical picture is not one of monsters hiding in dark places. Instead, the threat is often described as deception. The Bible repeatedly warns that spiritual beings may appear attractive, persuasive, or even beneficial, while leading people away from truth. Paul writes that Satan can disguise himself as an angel of light. That statement has become central to modern discussions about UFOs and alien encounters. In the 20th century, reports of alien encounters exploded. Witnesses described strange lights, non-human beings, missing time, telepathic communication, messages about humanity's future. Some Christian researchers noticed similarities between these reports and older accounts of spiritual encounters. They argued that what previous generations called demons are now being interpreted as extraterrestrials. One of the most common arguments is that the appearance changes with culture. Medieval people reported fairies, spirits, and demons. Modern people report gray aliens. The core experience appears similar, but the interpretation changes. From this perspective, the phenomenon adapts itself to the expectations of the observer. However, there are some challenges to the claim that demons are aliens. First, Scripture depicts demons as non-physical spirits. By contrast, reports of aliens often involve physical spacecraft, biological beings, radar detection, and alleged physical traces. In other words, UFOs and UAPs appear to be physical phenomena, which raises questions about equating them with spiritual beings. Second, many reported alien encounters have natural explanations or can be attributed to known psychological phenomena, such as atmospheric conditions, sleep paralysis, hallucinations, false memories, or altered states of consciousness. Because these explanations do not require a supernatural cause, critics argue that there is no need to conclude that aliens are demons. Third, reported alien encounters vary significantly in their characteristics and do not always parallel traditional descriptions of demonic activity. Rather than involving fear, deception, or spiritual influence, some accounts consist of neutral observations, expressions of scientific curiosity, little or no spiritual content, and no discernible challenge to religious beliefs. Consequently, critics argue that the wide range of reported experiences makes it difficult to interpret all alien encounters through a purely demonic lens. These explanations do not account for every report, but they do explain many experiences that were once considered supernatural. The reason this discussion refuses to disappear is because both demons and aliens occupy a similar place in human experiences. Both represent encounters with something beyond ordinary human experience. Both involve intelligence that appears more advanced than our own. Both challenge our understanding of reality. For some people, aliens provide a technological explanation for mysteries once attributed to religion. For others, the biblical framework provides a spiritual explanation for phenomena now interpreted as extraterrestrial. The Bible's central concern is not whether demons originate from another world. Its focus is on their spiritual nature and their opposition to God. Scripture portrays fallen angels and demonic forces as real participants in a larger spiritual conflict. The Bible teaches that these beings are powerful but limited. They are not equal to God. They are not beyond judgment, and they do not ultimately control humanity's destiny. Whether one views modern UFO reports through a spiritual lens, a scientific lens, or a skeptical lens, the biblical narrative remains consistent. A rebellion occurred. Certain spiritual beings opposed God. Their influence continues in the world, and according to Christian belief, their final defeat is already determined. The question of whether demons are aliens remains speculative. The Bible's account of fallen angels, spiritual warfare, and deception is extensive and should not be taken lightly. Ultimately, whether or not demons and aliens are connected is less important than the broader question of spiritual influence. The real issue is not labeling experiences or forcing them into a single category, but discerning what is true, what is misleading, and how such experiences shape one's understanding of reality and faith. The question remains, are aliens really extraterrestrial visitors, or could they be something more spiritual in nature? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Be sure to leave a comment, and don't forget to like and subscribe.